maybe you have put it on everybody else to be okay so that you could be okay and happy, at the holiday gathering. Well, they may or may not do that, right? So maybe the thing that needs to change is your desire to have everybody be okay. Welcome to Frontline Women, a show dedicated to women on the leading edge of change and culture renewal in America. I'm Delisha Coppersmith, and I'll be your host and guide as we explore emerging issues and opportunities for women to lead side by side with men every day. So let's get off the sideline and onto the front line right now. Hello, my friend. This is going into the holiday season, and I thought that we could spend a few moments together trying to figure out who we are trying to change. So whether you've already had your holiday gathering, if you were going to have one at all, or if you're going into one, I would love for you to pay attention to how you feel with certain people in the room, whoever it is that kind of triggers you a little bit. And sometimes as we're heading into the holidays, we're already preparing ourselves for how we're going to respond to things that haven't even happened yet, may never happen. And so we all know this, but you can bring about the very thing that you don't want simply by bracing for it. It's really strange in relationships how this happens, especially with families. And so I invite you today to think about your holiday gathering and who's going to be around the table or in the room with you that you've already maybe started talking about, okay, with your spouse or a friend or something. And you've already started preparing yourself for how it's going to be. Maybe you're being lighthearted about it right now, but by the time you get to this holiday gathering, you have primed yourself for at least an internal conflict that didn't need to happen. And I was reminded of this whole thing today. I was working with a coaching client. She's a lovely lady. And I can imagine that a coworker of hers is somebody who just triggers her every single time she walks down the hall or is on the phone or even comes across her email. And this is such a common occurrence with all of us, honestly. And so what are you going to do when you go into the room and you're supposed to be having a good time with everybody, and that person just does one little thing and you've been primed for it for 2 weeks? Well, my question for you is, who are you trying to change? When you go into any gathering, whether it's at work or at home, holidays or not, and you're bracing for some kind of impact, some kind of conflict or irritation, what is it that's going to make you happy in that situation? Does the other person need to change in order for you to be happy? So let's just say it is an in-law. Maybe I'm not going to use the old trope mother-in-law. Let's say it's your father-in-law. And your father-in-law tends to be kind of grumpy, maybe even grouchy toward his wife or partner. And you watch this and it just irritates you because you think, number one, that that's rude. Number two, why is the spouse or partner putting up with that? And number three, how clueless does a person have to be grumpy on the holidays when they're inviting people into their homes, right? So all of these judgments are coming across and you feel like you can't enjoy yourself in the situation. So who are you trying to change? For you to be happy with your family in that gathering, does your father-in-law need to change for you? And the answer right now may be yes, but I'd like to talk about how we get to the answer of no. No, they don't have to change for me to be happy. And I think that you probably know this instinctively, or you've listened to, so much self-help content that you know it in your mind, maybe even in your heart. But when we decide that the person does not need to change for us to be happy, like we can study them in a way, not to make them a science experiment, but we can study them and become very curious about, I wonder why this person chooses that behavior to meet some need. And then beyond that, I wonder what that need is. If a person waits until the holidays to display negative feelings, I don't know, could it be that they have swallowed and stuffed down all of their negative feelings all year and they just cannot do it, and all of these negative feelings that they've stored up all throughout the year get presented to their family during the holidays? Maybe that's something. Who knows what it is? You can't solve it, you can't diagnose it really, but you can be curious about it. instead of getting irritated and angry, you can watch this behavior, help in whatever ways that you can help. And then instead of judging and adding to the negative energy in the room, you can just throw compassion on this thing and say, there is some reason for that behavior. There is some need or unmet need that is causing this person to act this way. And they don't need to change for me to be happy. Now, if you can meet that need for the person, in a direct or indirect way, well, why not try? If a person is acting up possibly because they don't tend to get a lot of attention from the family, instead of avoiding them, why don't you walk up and have a conversation, sit down and spend some quality time? That can prevent some bad behaviors. What if the person, like I said, is storing up bad feelings? Well, if you think that could be it, that maybe it's a stoic person who's just not expressed their feelings all year, and now all of a sudden they're coming tumbling out, maybe you could sit and listen to them for a while. What's your year been like? What hopes or wishes or dreams or even regrets did you have this year? And just let them start talking about their year, because they may not even be aware that that's what they're doing, allowing all of their feelings that they didn't allow themselves to feel all year to come out now in this holiday gathering. If they feel the need to control, some people are real control freaks, and when you invite a bunch of people into your house, you can't control everybody. You can't control the kids running around, or how fast the food is cooking or slowly the food is cooking. You can't always control exactly when your guests leave, because you have to leave a little extra time. Everything takes longer, including conversations. So what if the person is just irritated because they cannot control their environment like they're used to doing? Well, you can help them feel some sense of control. What would you like us to do next? Or what time did you want us to start packing up? I can kind of help, get everybody going toward the door. Or did you want us to stay longer, than we were maybe planning on staying? So being curious about, what it is that they're going through there and trying to meet the need. And if you can't figure it out, or you can't meet the need, then just be okay that they have it and it's an unresolved need, and they don't need to change for you to be happy. You can still have a good time. So we don't have to mind map or psychoanalyze everybody, but we can be curious and compassionate, and we can choose that we're going to have a good time anyway. And if anybody needs to change, maybe it's us. Okay, that's the second thing. Now, how might you need to change over the holidays? Well, this whole thing that we've been talking about could be a way. Maybe you have put it on everybody else to be okay so that you could be okay and happy, at the holiday gathering. Well, they may or may not do that, right? So maybe the thing that needs to change is your desire to have everybody be okay. One time I was on a business trip with a colleague, and I needed to, I think, make a U-turn or make a turn or something like that. And I just said, oh shoot, I missed my turn. And my colleague, in a very like over the top, awkwardly helpful way, was like, oh no, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. There's going to be another turn coming up soon. And I was just like, what? I am okay. All I said was, oh shoot, I missed my turn. I realize that I'll be able to turn, a block up. Again, I can't mind map or psychoanalyze this person, but it made me wonder if this is how he controlled his environment. If this is what made him happy, was for everybody else to act like everything was perfect. And what a lovely thing to want everybody to be happy. That's a lovely reason, for you to be uncomfortable with somebody's expression of frustration. But if you're forcing everyone to act like everything is okay, if you're making even the slightest feeling, unacceptable in the moment, that you have to squash it, you have to like put water on the fire kind of thing. And to the point where when somebody just simply says, oh, I missed a turn, you're uncomfortable with that and you're trying so hard to make them okay. That's a level of social control that probably has an impact on all of your relationships. And so maybe that's the thing that you need to change, is that, I don't need to make everything okay. I don't need to put it on myself, take what I call inappropriate responsibility for everybody else's emotions, and squash any negative emotion, because I'll tell you what, that'll pull the oxygen right out of the room for everybody. If nobody's allowed to have any feelings except fake holiday cheer, it's just not reality. It's not reality. And people end up acting nice and they cannot wait to get out. Like they can't breathe in the room. They need to get outside to get some oxygen. So look at yourself, this holiday season and just say, okay, who am I trying to change? And what if they don't change? Can I still be happy? How can I change myself so that that can be the case? That even if people aren't okay, even if the father in law is a little bit grumpy, I can still be okay. So that's a thought going into the holiday season. Very brief little episode. I hope that it's sparked some curiosity about yourself and the way you walk into holiday gatherings. And let's just put all the nonsense aside and all of the bracing for impact that we do, because the only thing that really matters is that you show up and be loving and kind to your family. That's it. Or your friends, if you're getting together with friends. Be loving and kind, and that's really all that matters. They don't need to be perfect, and neither do you. All right. Well, thanks for being with me this week, and I will see you again next week. Happy holidays.